Hello guys, Sanket here. Welcome to another session on protein-protein interaction network. Last time we saw what exactly is protein-protein interaction network and a small history or a small history lesson or a story of how graph theory came into being. Today we'll be understanding what actually is this graph theory. So your graph consists of these circles, what we call as your nodes. Okay, there are different names for it. They are called as nodes, they are called as vertices, they are called as points, and all these nodes are connected by your edges. So you have edges, or they are called as arcs, or they are called as lines. When it comes to the biological perspective, you can have various types. What are the various things? What you can have is your protein-protein interaction. What we are actually talking about. So your proteins could be your nodes, and the interaction between them will be your edges. Now, one important thing is your graph theory talks about the pairwise relationship between the objects. So it talks about how one single node is connected with, or what is the relationship with what it has with another node. Okay, so in case of protein protein interaction, ये एक प्रोटीन है, ये एक प्रोटीन है, उनके बीच में इंटरेक्शन क्या है. If it's a gene network, then this is a gene, this is a gene. What is the interaction which is there between the gene? If it's suppose a network between a protein and a drug, so you have a protein, you have a drugs, that's the entire network for some specific disease, let's say cancer. So what are the different proteins, what are the various drugs, how they are interacting with each other? That network you can understand and analyze by using this graph theory. um, so what are the examples? Okay, you can have your metabolic pathways, what I was just telling you right now. So the biological pathways, where your proteins or your genes, they act as your nodes. Okay, and what you see here, the arrows which actually connects, okay, they act as your edges. Something like your tree, your leaves act as your nodes, whereas your branches act as your edges. Your street map or your GPS system, your streets, the locations here, the one you what you see in your red, consider them as nodes, and they are connected by these blue edges. Okay, so your GPS system also is based on the graph theory, or what we or you all know, your biological neural network. So in your biological neural network, your cytons, okay, or your neuron, the cytons are your nodes, and the axons, which connects from one cyton to another, to and which other connects to another. So all of these becomes, it forms sort of a network. So your cytons becomes your nodes, and your axons become your edges. So these are the various graph theories. There are a number of applications of graph theories. If you want to study the network, okay, of how the air network of your aeroplane networks, how they are connected to each other. Okay, all of these planes, when they travel from destination A to destination B, they have a particular path. So these destinations, consider them as your nodes, and the paths which they follow, which connects to different places, those are your edges. So your aeroplane, or the air network technology actually follows your graph theory. Then in China, they have actually used graph theory. It's very scary to say nowadays China, but in China they've used graph theory in the mail system. Okay, mail in the sense, the postman, okay, who delivers mail, or the courier guy, not the postman, the courier guy who delivers the mail. All these courier people have been given specific network, okay, and China uses graph theory to do that. By the way, in India also graph theory is used. If you look at your train system, which is connected all over the country, or your local trains, all of them follow the graph theory. So graph theory, my whole point is there is a huge application of graph theory in biology or otherwise. Now, what are the different types of your network edges? As I told you that your edges, these edges, okay, in your graph theory, they have These are the edges. They're different types of the network. The first type of your network is called as your undirected edge. Okay, so undirected, matlab there is no direction. Okay, like our careers. Okay, so there's no undirected edges. What is this? So the type of this is found in your protein-protein interaction network. There is no direction. There is no flow. Okay, so the evidence between. So if you look at this entire network, okay, your A, B, C, D, E, F, all of these they follow and they are all connected to each other and they all have a relationship, but it's an undirected. This is your first type. Okay, your second type or your second type of network edge would be, you can guess, अगर पहला type undirected है तो दूसरा type होगा directed. So there is a flow. I don't need to again give you an example for this thing, or this is your metabolic pathway. So or your gene regulation network. So if you can see your A, there's a flow to it. So the flow is from A to B, then B it goes to C, then C to D, E, F. Okay, otherwise your B can directly jump to D, depends on how the metabolite is, or you can have an end product of F and G in these cases. So there is a flow, there is a direction to it. Okay, undirected, no direction, no flow. Directed, there is a flow or there is a direction to it. Okay, the last type of your network edge is your weighted networks. Okay, being a bioinformatician, I think, or if you're learning bioinformatics, I think the concept of weight is should not be new to you. Okay, your weight is a numerical value which is added. Okay, and this numerical value determines what is the connection or the relationship between the different entities. So in this case our entities are the nodes. So agar this is 16, this is 8, if you can see here, I don't know if you can, but the weight here is 16, it is 8, it is 12, it is 12, it is 12 here, and it is again 12. So the maximum weight is between A and F. So that means the connection between these two nodes, that is your A node and your F node, is the highest. That means that means they are closely related basically to each other. So if you look at your weights here, okay, in this case, these are other examples of where weights are. I think you must have heard weights when you were talking about your neural network system. For example, in your machine learning, that is your ANN or artificial neural network. This is your input layer, this is your hidden layers, and this is your output layers. So how your output actually is going to be is completely dependent upon the weight. Okay, so these are these input data or the input parameters. In most of your ANN, you can actually input the weights, and based on that, or the numerical data, and based on that, you can have a certain output. So your ANN is one of the examples where weight is used. This Clustal Omega, I think all of you know what Clustal Omega is. Clustal Omega is a tool for carrying out multiple sequence alignment. The reason I've mentioned Clustal Omega when it comes to weight here is because Clustal Omega was originally called as Clustal W. Okay, so Clustal stood for cluster and W stood for weight. Okay, so your Clustal Omega or your Clustal W, which was called before, the Clustal W, Clustal W2, and now Clustal Omega. So your Clustal Omega actually uses the concept of weight, okay, in order to carry out multiple sequence alignment between the different sequences. So so hopefully you've understood. So there are three networks. So you have your undirected, you have directed, and your weighted edges. Okay, so these are the three different types of your network edges what we are talking about. Now if you remember one of the concept, okay, when we in the last session, if you remember the graph tree what we had done, okay, there was I told you what is a degree. So if there is a node and there are various edges connected to it, the 7 bridge example, so there was, if you remember, it was 5 3 3 3 3 3. Okay, so I told you those 3 3 3, okay, are nothing but your degrees. All right, now when we are talking about your graph theory, we have to understand an adjacency matrix. Adjacency matrix, what it does, it helps us to calculate the degree of the network. If you remember that example what I was talking about, the various degrees, okay, or the basic one, 1 2 1, so those are the degrees. Now there is a way in which the graph theory actually calculates this degree. That way or that technique is what we call as your adjacency matrix technique. So what happens in your adjacency matrix technique is there is a row and a column. So because it's a matrix, so there's a row and column. So in your rows and columns, you assign the nodes of the edges. So if there's A, B, C, D, E, F, these are, if this is your network, for example, so your nodes in the edges will be A, B, C, D, E, F, A, B, C, D, E, F, okay, and your edges will be the numerical values within the matrix. Okay. If you have not understood, no problem. We'll be looking at how the adjacency matrix works for all the three networks. But try to understand the whole purpose of doing this is to calculate the degree of the network. And why we need to calculate the degree of the network is to ascertain what are the number of connections which happens in the various nodes. So let's look for your undirected one. As I told you, you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you put that as a column and as a row. Okay, that's the first step. The second step is you have to fill up this matrix. If you remember the first point, to fill up the matrix, you have to give the the numerical value of the edges. Matlab, A with A will always be 0. A with B has a connection, so it's 1. A with C, does it have a connection? Yes, so that's why 1. A with the D, does it have a connection? Yes, so it's 1. A with E, does it have a connection? Yes, so it's 1. A with F, does it have a connection? Yes, 1. A with G, does it have a direct connection? This is the indirect one. Does it have a direct connection like this? No, so that's why it's 0. Okay, so like this you similarly do it. So if for A, for A, B, C, D, E, F, G will be same. Similarly for this thing, okay, your A will also be the same thing. Okay, yeah. Now let's do it for B. Okay, B with B will always be 0. Okay, before I just reveal it, let's do it here. Okay, so B with B will be 0. B with C, is there a connection? No, so it will be 0. B with D, is there a connection? No, so it will be 0. B with E, is there a connection? No, it is 0. B with F, is there a connection? Yes, so there will be 1. And B with G, is there a connection? 0. So like this you have, for B you have two connections, that is with A and with F. Similarly you can do it for your C, D, E, F and G. You can populate the same matrix. And finally, how you calculate the degree is how many numerical values we have obtained in our edges. So for your undirected, your degree for here for A is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For B it is 2, 1 and 2. For C it is 1. For D it is 1. For E it is 1. For F it is 3, 1, 2 and 3. And for G it is going to be 1. Okay, so this is how you actually calculate the degree using the adjacency matrix for your undirected network. Now if we similarly look for your directed and weighted, so let's first look at the directed one. If you can see this matrix, ये तो हमने किया अभी, okay, it's the same thing. इसके लिए, okay, now with A and B there is a connection, yes. With C, is there a connection? No. With D, no. With E, no. With F, there is no direct connection, so 0. And with G, no. Now try understand, this is a directed one. Can you see the lines? Can you see the arrows? So these arrows matter very much when we are doing directed networks. यहाँ पे वो मैटर कुछ नहीं करता, ये कैसा भी एरो इधर, there is no concept of arrow, that's why it's an undirected one. यहाँ पे arrow काफी मैटर करता है. तो even though F का okay B के साथ कनेक्शन है, बट arrow जो है वो B का F की तरफ जा रहा है. ओके, ध्यान से देखो, वो B का कनेक्शन arrow जो है वो F की तरफ जा रहा है. इसी के वजह से ऑलराइट अगर आप बी का देखोगे, ओके, सो बी का सी डी एफ जी, सो बी का अगर आप देखोगे तो सी डी एफ और जी के साथ है, बी के साथ उल्टा एरो के साथ कनेक्शन नहीं है, देख रहे हो ना? ओके, सो दैट्स व्हाई इट इज जीरो। अगर उल्टा रहता ना सपोज, ओके, लाइक बोथ द वेज, ओके, देन शायद ये वन रहता था, बट इट इज ओनली वन। I hope you're understanding. Okay, so this is how you calculate the adjacency. That's why it's not called as a degree, it's called as an out degree when it comes to directed. तो अगर आप इसका if you look at the degree, it becomes different. So it's 1411000 if we are looking at directed. एक बात समझ लो, you have the network which is having the same nodes, but then because it's undirected and directed, your entire degrees and out degrees changes. वेट्स का गेम थोड़ा अलग है। वेट्स में कैसा होता है कि एज आई टोल्ड यू, वेट्स देयर इज numbers which is given to it, so there is no 100 wala funda in this. Okay, so based on what the weight is, okay, based on what the, यहाँ पे 12 12 12, यहाँ पे 16 है, based on what your weight is, your degree will come different. So when we are doing weighted sort of a network, your degree is completely dependent, okay, on the weights what is there. The reason for showing these three is when you are generating a network, so you have a list of proteins or a genes and you want to generate a network for them. When you're generating a list of network, it's very important what sort of uh, network are you using graph theory. Because अगर तुम्हारे पास proteins है, अगर तुम्हारे पास genes है, अगर तुमने undirected use किया तो the degree will come out something different. अगर उसी चीज के लिए अगर तुमने weighted system use किया तो the degree will come out to be completely different. Okay, so that is why it is very important, okay, for us to understand what sort are we using, what sort of network or what sort of interaction are we trying to work on here. Okay, because अगर तुमने ये और ये compare किया, you will be like अरे दोनों तो same ही है, तो ये degree and this degree should be same. Okay, if you look at the CDE, it is 1 1 1, so 12 12 12 because that's the basic. Okay, fine, because that's just one sort of interaction. But if you look at the second one, the B, that is very interesting. Okay, यहाँ पे you will have just 1 and 1. B is interacting, yeah, B is interacting A and F, that's why 1 and 1 2. Here also it's interacting with 2, but look at the weights. Okay, A and B has a weight which is 8 and F and B has a weight which is 4. That's why now the degree which has come out to be 12. So if you look at all of this, your B, C, D, E and F, all of these have I mean, even though the networks here connection or the degree, the network of connection is more, the degree comes out to be the least one as compared to the rest. So that's why it's very important to know which type of network are you going to use for before working for any of your protein-protein interaction network. So hope you understood what exactly is graph theory and what are the different types. The next thing is your biological networks, so the types of biological networks. So you saw what are your types of your graph theory based on the edges. Okay, now it's the types of the biological network. What is that? So you have, so there are various the types of biological networks is, one is based on your protein interaction. So can you see these blue lines here? Yeah. So these blue lines are a part of your I mean, so when it comes to protein interactions, the network looks something like this. Okay, you tell me, how does this network look like? Yeah, it's an undirected, yes, if you guessed it, you guessed it right. It's an undirected network because there are no arrows to it. Okay, so protein interaction networks, all of them are undirected ones. Okay, the gene regulation ones, the gene regulations are the ones which are in the green. Okay, so here again, I think looking at it, you can guess it. It's a directed network. So what you see here in this part, so all your gene regulations are basically there's a direction, like how does a gene, how it goes from one gene to another to third to fourth, uh, which is initially silenced, then how does it get activated. So that's why there is a need for the arrow, the direction to it. Your third type of network is your cell signaling network. So all your signaling pathways, be it your proteins, be it your genes, whatever. Okay, so this is your cell signaling pathway. To have more information about, I mean, if you want to know what is the database of the cell signaling pathway, I think if you know, there's a KEGG. Okay, KEGG. KEGG is a database which gives you the information of your cell signaling, cell signaling and metabolic pathways. The third one is the fourth one is your metabolism or your metabolic biological pathways. Again, your metabolic biological pathways here could be directional. Okay, one thing is, when we are talking about metabolites, the metabolites are always given as squares. Okay, it's always the shape is always square given to it, and the other ones, your proteins and genes with which your metabolite are interacting, will always be circular. So this is one which you have to remember. And the last one are your genetic interactions. Okay, so your genetic interaction, if you can see the type of the whole purpose of showing this is, it's very important, okay, that you know the representation, okay, of your different pathways. So if you're talking about gene regulation, the representation should be like this. If you're talking about genetic interaction, your representation should be like this. If you're talking about protein-protein interaction, your representation should be like this. Okay, and this is how the representation is also shown when you look at the most popular network databases, KEGG, for example, which I just mentioned. So these are the various types of your biological networks, or what is there. Uh, in the next lecture, we will be looking at what are the source of these biological databases, and we'll be studying more into the properties of the PPIN. Hopefully, you have understood this session. Hopefully, you have understood what is graph theory, what are the types of graph theory, how does an adjacency matrix works, and what are the types of biological networks. It was a comparatively bigger lecture, right, as compared to last, but point is, if you have understood it. So thank you very much. Okay, and take care, and we'll meet in the next session. Bye.